We have saved the best for last. Go look the song up. All right. The last. Thank you very much. AFC West up last. And we're going in alphabetical order. So the best team.
We really are saving the best for last, aren't we?
We are saving the best
for people who tuned into this extra long podcast just to hear Fitz's thoughts on the Raiders draft. Well, you had to sit through the first 31.
You know what? Y'all time spent listening matters. Listen to the whole damn episode. We need that. All right. So the Denver Broncos first up. They take Bo Nix at 12. I said on this podcast a long time ago, Bo Nix was going to go 12. I've been told that multiple times by multiple insiders. I was not surprised by Bo Nix going 12. I think this is the ultimate. We give Sean Payton all the credit and the presumption that he can get it from there. They go Jonah Ellis, the edge rusher, later Troy Franklin, a wide receiver that unexplainably to most just absolutely plummeted in this draft process. Audric Estime, a running back out of Notre Dame that a lot of people like, and he goes in the 5th round. Like, I've seen some really harsh grades on the Denver Broncos. I do not share that opinion. To me, this is sort of a C draft that becomes an A if Bo Nix is at all who Sean Payton thinks he is. I thought this was okay by Denver.
Yeah, I gave the Broncos a C+, but obviously could get a lot higher if Bo Nix is as good as the Broncos hope he is. It's one of those where I think people just looked at it like, oh, the Broncos just settled. This is a Christian Ponder type pick, which I've talked about a lot, where it's kind of the epitome to me of, well, we need a quarterback. We got to draft one. He's the top one on the board. We know he's not worth number 12, but we got to take him. I don't know that Bo Nix is necessarily that bad. People have had scathing reviews of Bo Nix as a player. I like him. I think he's a smart guy. I think he's good at a lot of areas of the game. I think he's a great fit with Sean Payton, who obviously is an offensive genius. So I don't hate the Bo Nix pick, but obviously when you take the 6th quarterback off the board at number 12, there's going to be some questions. Did like some of their other picks. Estime was obviously a very good value pick. And Troy Franklin, like, wow, like that guy was there in the 4th, like smart pick for them. I think they really restocked the receiver room there. So I did like a lot of what they did. It just all depends on Nix. And right now I don't know what to make of him. That's why I gave them a C+. It could get a lot higher if Nix hits, obviously. I don't know. We'll just see where Bo Nix goes. But I think the Broncos did the right thing. Take a shot on the quarterback. If we're in an era where if it doesn't work out, you just move on very quickly. You just don't care if you used a 12 pick on a quarterback. If he's not good, you just move on right away. And that's what the Broncos are going to do if Nix doesn't work out.
All right. So next up in alphabetical order would be like, I don't know what we're doing. Like it'd be the Chargers. The Chargers go next here. Good that I've got that pulled up. All right. The Chargers, by the way, if you get starters at every level in the first 3 rounds, you get an A from me. I think Joe Alt was absolutely, clearly, without a question, the best offensive lineman in this draft, and he's going to end up being one of the best offensive linemen we've seen drafted in years. I love Joe Alt. Ladd McConkey is somebody that I absolutely think is being undervalued, being taken at the top of the 2nd round, especially if you added in the production. He wasn't asked to contribute because of Brock Bowers. I think Ladd McConkey was a home run pick for Justin Herbert, and Junior Colson is a guy that If Harbaugh takes Colson in the 3rd, he knows Colson better than anybody in the world. So that speaks to exactly who he's getting there. I thought if your first 3 picks in the draft are all going to be day 1 impact starters, you get an A for me. I thought the Chargers got a home run for this draft.
Yeah, I thought the Chargers get an A too. I thought Jim Harbaugh's first draft was really, really good. Now, the question obviously is, how do we think about this draft if they drafted Malik Neighbors and Ladd McConkey? We'd be like, oh my goodness, what an exciting offense. Joel's not exciting necessarily, but he fits Harbaugh's philosophy. And I got to tip my cap to that. He really thinks having a foundation on the offensive line is what makes your team. With him, with Alt and Slater, they have 2 top, maybe top 10 tackles in the NFL if Alt works out as we think he can. He's really, really talented guy. To me, there was top offensive lineman in this draft. So I'm not going to sit here and say the Chargers should have drafted Neighbors who were Dunze. They certainly could have, but I thought they made up for it with Ladd McConkey. Very, very good player. Colson's fine. Couple cornerbacks after that. This is how you draft. You stick with your philosophy. You understand the needs of the modern NFL. Jim Harbaugh really did that by moving up and getting McConkey. The receiver room is not going to be empty. I gave the Chargers an A for this draft.
Yeah, 100%. Now the Chiefs, thanks to the Bills, move up to take Xavier Worthy, who we all know is lightning fast and exactly what they needed for their offense. They sit in the 2nd round and they get I still can't figure out why he was following Kingsley Suamataia, the offensive tackle out of BYU, who I think is going to be an absolute stud. They get Jared Wiley, the tight end out of TCU, in the 4th round, who can develop with patience under the current tight end that none of us have ever heard of that they have. They get Jaden Hicks at safety in the 4th round. Like, this is, again, like, this is the Chiefs playing chess while everybody else is playing checkers. This was an A+ draft for me.
A for me for the Chiefs as well. I think that the most interesting pick in the draft is Xavier Worthy to the Chiefs. Might not be the best pick, might not turn out to be the home run I think it could be, but it is interesting to pair a guy with 4.21 speed with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Andy Reid probably hasn't slept since the draft, just drawing up plays for Xavier Worthy. But as I also wrote in Winners and Losers, he might not have had to drop any plays for Xavier Worthy. He just says, where's my Tyreek Hill playbook? Because I remember when I had the fastest guy in the field before, and he was an absolute superstar. I think I just love that. And as you talked about with Suamataia, did I get that right?
Yeah,
Suamataia. I thought the Chiefs could have picked him in the 1st round, 32 overall. I did a mock draft myself, didn't publish it. That's fine because it stunk. But I had Suamataia going in the 32nd to the Chiefs in the 1st round. For them to get him in the 2nd, I thought it was an absolute steal. Jared Wiley, really big tight end. Yes, he could fill that Travis Kelce role. I love what the Chiefs did. I gave them an A because I just think, look, not every team was going to make Xavier Worthy a star. He's not that kind of guy. I think the Chiefs will make him a star because he's going to fit exactly what they can do on offense.
The last team in our entire exercise. Woo! Huh.
Finally.
I'm telling you.
What do you think? I really have not talked to you, so I'm wondering what you think about this draft.
I have spent years with the camera in my face when the Raiders make a pick, embarrassed that they picked somebody that nobody's ever heard of or didn't belong there. I refuse to, after spending years doing that, apologize for a single second about clearly the best player available being drafted by my favorite football team. Brock Bowers, I don't care about need right now. The Raiders are not competing with the Chiefs today. The Raiders are trying to figure out how to compete to get towards the playoffs while also building a roster. And I think you got a real identity of who Vegas is right now. Like Tom Telesco went into this draft and said, we are going to build the roster with best player available. Brock Bowers in this offense with Michael Mayer at tight end, Michael Mayer at tight end, is going to give you a ton of opportunity with 2 tight end sets. Jacoby Myers is going to be there for a minute. We'll see what it all means for Devontae long-term. I don't care. If you can't get to the quarterback that you want, give the quarterbacks you have better weapons. I thought that was beautifully done. Jackson Powers Johnson in the 2nd round never should have been available in my mind. That is a great value pick. I think in the 3rd round, Glaze out of Maryland might be a bit of a question mark, but Richardson, a corner, Eichenberg, the linebacker, these are all guys that made a lot of sense. And even in the 7th round, MJ Devonshire is somebody that I never thought would still be there. I thought in my exercises, he'd be a 5th round pick corner, right? So I just look at this across the board and there was a true identity. I give the draft a B overall because it's hard to be more praiseworthy than the Chargers and the Chiefs, who I thought absolutely nailed it. But man, other than the Delmar Glaze kid out of Maryland, that I think there's some real question marks about where that draft position was, I think Tom Telesco sat here and said, look, screw the board, screw what fans are going to yell, screw what anybody thinks. We are going to follow what we think the best player available is. And we're not going to overdraft for need. We're going to be patient. It was a work of art to me. And I have more confidence in the future of the Raiders right now than I've had in years because I felt like finally there was a competent GM making picks.
I think that's a great assessment, actually. I gave the Raiders a B because of, look, you can't give them an A because they didn't figure out the quarterback situation. That still is out there. It's still part of this grade. But I think once, like you said, once a quarterback's not there, you don't have this philosophy of, oh, we can't draft Brock Bowers because we don't have a quarterback yet. I hate when I hear that. No, you want your quarterback, whoever that quarterback of the future is in 2025, whether it's Shedeur Sanders or whoever it's going to be, he's going to step in and say, wow, I got Brock Bowers to throw it to. I have Jackson Powers Johnson in front of me, blocking for me. I thought that it was really, really smart for them to make these picks. Obviously, I've talked about Brock Bowers a lot. He's the best college tight end I've ever seen. I think an A+ prospect at the position. Yeah, you got Michael Mayer, but whatever, you figure it out. 2 tight end sets, you could make that work. I've seen teams do that before. And it just doesn't matter. That wasn't even the regime. This regime didn't pick him. So you don't pass on a really, really, really good tight end prospect just because you got somebody who the other regime picked. No, you just figure it out later. I like the Raiders just drafting best player available here. I think that Powers Johnson, I thought was a really excellent pick. I thought he was a 1st round talent that slipped. Glaze could help them down the road. I thought this was a really good, solid draft by the Raiders. They'll figure out the quarterback situation down the road, but they didn't press. They didn't draft Spencer Rattler in the 3rd round or whatever it's going to be. They said, okay, well, this is what we got to do right now. And I applaud them for that and not stressing out, not making any bad picks just because of need. I give the Raiders a B. I thought they did the job they could do considering that all 6 quarterbacks went in the first 12 picks.
Yeah, and not for nothing here, but like Aiden O'Connell is going to get another year's opportunity. I don't think he's the long-term answer, but let's see. And, you know, Gardner Minshew got paid enough for them to believe that he can be a bridge gap starter. And I would say, like, go back and watch the Colts last year. It took some offensive creativity, but Gardner Minshew had the Colts where they were throughout the course of the year, right? Like, the Colts were far ahead of schedule. So now, if I'm looking to your point, whatever the quarterback position looks like for the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years as they try and address it, for all we know, we're going to get to next offseason and Mark Davis is going to give Dak Prescott $60 million. Who knows? But what we know right now is that whatever quarterback comes in has so many weapons in front of him. And at some point, it's like you got to figure out how to just continue to make your entire roster better. San Francisco did this for years where they said, you know what? The quarterback we want isn't there. We're going to just keep building the best roster available. And then when they took a chance on quarterback and got it wrong, it didn't set them back because their entire roster was better. Best player available is the best way to build your team. And I think we just become so obsessed as a society with the quarterback will fix everything. Well, maybe, but if the quarterback that you're looking at isn't even close to available for you, then you got to go best player available. And you also can't just turn around and trade 18 years of draft picks to go get a guy and leave him on an island. Some of these quarterbacks are not going to work out because their teams weren't built the right way around them. We just have to remember that context.
And I think one more thing on the Raiders is they're not the Broncos. As you talked about, the Broncos could not sell their fans on going into a season with Jarrett Stidham and Zach Wilson. Like that, no, you need a quarterback somehow, some way. The Raiders aren't in that position. It's fully reasonable to give O'Connell another shot. It's perfectly fine if Minshew's your guy for a year. This was not a desperate situation where they had absolutely possibly nothing at quarterback. Do I love the Raiders quarterback room? No, of course I don't. But to your point, they didn't need to get crazy. They didn't need to just draft a quarterback just to have a quarterback. They're fine. They can patch it together for a year. And again, they'll come into the draft next year or free agency next year, as you talked about with Mark Davis and Dak Prescott or whatever it's going to be. You got to figure out the plan later. Quarterback. You didn't really need to stress out over it here.
That brings to an end the longest episode of Zero Blitz in history.
Wait, we didn't go best or worst in the AFC West.
Oh yeah, best or worst in the AFC West. Best I'll give the Chargers.
Yeah.
The best.
Me too.
And I will give the Broncos the worst.
Yeah, that's me too. It's close though between the Chargers and Chiefs. I think the Chiefs really did well here, but I just like what the Chargers did philosophically. And then the Broncos. I don't even hate the Broncos draft, but just the Bo Nix question, 6th quarterback off the board at number 12 overall. A lot of people really dislike Bo Nix, who are a lot smarter than me when it comes to evaluating quarterbacks. So they got to be the worst now, but I don't hate it as much as everybody else.